mentees.
Okay. Somebody who leads by example. Let's go with that thread. I like that. I mean, that's kind of more that mindset of, I walk the walk, talk the talk, and kind of follow me. I can show you that this is a real thing and this is how that works. Anybody else want to pipe in before I jump into it? So a lot of us have different concepts of what a leader is or what makes a great leader. And there are essentially 5 levels to leadership. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So what makes a leader great? Is it because they're courageous? Is it because they've got strong business acumen? Is it because they're experts in the field, as Jovan was saying, which is through mentorship? Do they have the ability to organize? So truly great leaders have a special blend of skills. They have multitudes of things, but they also possess something more specific. They have the characteristics which are more difficult to define based on who they are. So if you're, like all of you are, in a leadership role, you likely think about, how do I get to the next level? What makes me a great leader? It's one thing to hire a team of relatively new practitioners in the business because they're hungry for knowledge. They thirst for A, your approval, B, your guidance, and C, your acceptance, right? And so newer agents naturally will link to you because they're trying to figure it out. And we were all there at one point. Some of us may still be there, but they're trying to figure it out. So they're looking for someone who has more experience than them, someone who can help them achieve their goals, help them to realize their visions, right? But when we think about leadership, how do we lead those who are experienced, who do well in their practice, and a relationship between those people? How would that benefit mutually for both of us, right? So in that leadership role, as we look at getting to the next level, let's talk a little bit about that. So when we talk about being a level 5 leader, it's a concept, right? And it was created by a guy named Jim Collins, who's a business consultant. So Jim Collins used to be a moderator for the Harvard Business Review. He wrote a book called Good to Great. Some of you have probably heard of that book. Jim Collins, came up with this conceptual notion of level 5 leadership and kind of ways to get there. So, and this was out of countless research of multiple companies, like 1,500 companies, nearing 1,500 companies that he researched to find really great leaders in those companies. And he found, traits existed between 11 companies that propelled them to, kind of the top of the heap. All of these leaders had, possessed characteristics of humility. They don't seek success just for themselves, right? A lot of us want to be successful so that someone will blow the trumpets for us and tell us how great we are and those kinds of things. But these folks acted from a position of humility versus, vanity. Their success wasn't, the success was necessary so the team and the organization could thrive. They shared credit for the success, and they were the first to accept the blames when things went wrong, right? We've all heard of that. I think Jovan talked a little bit about leading by example. One of those tried and true principles of that is, if my team does well, we all do well. If my team fails, I'm the one who guided this ship to the rocks, basically. So Collins also suggested that, some really great leaders are shy a bit. They don't need to be the center of attention, but they're fearless when it comes to making decisions, especially those team leaders or those leaders of those companies that most other people would consider risky. And that's where we sit in real estate. Sometimes we lead our business so far out there, there's natural risks that are inherent to the real estate business. And I think all of you would agree, real estate is not a business for the weak-hearted, right? It's not a business to where if we just throw our hat in the field of play, someone will fill it. It's us taking risks every single day. Everything we do in our business model is fairly risky. So those of you who are risk adverse, it might be helpful as you assess what kind of leader you want to be or what leader you may be now. So, as we look at level one leadership, let's just kind of get into it. So, a level one leader, and we talked about level 5 leadership. A level one leader, which most of us are, at this level, we're able to be contributive, right? We're highly qualified, highly capable individuals, and we do well in our job, right? We figured out our secret sauce. We figured out how to get customers to talk to us on a regular basis. We understand the flow and the pace of negotiations. We know how to maintain our customer base and our databases. So we've got some knowledge that allow us to thrive as individuals in this business. We have lots of knowledge that people often seek. We have talents and skills that get recognized in our industry, and we're generally known as people who do a good job. That's a level one leader, someone who's a highly capable individual. Many of us, once we get to this level, this is when we think, let me bring other people on because I do well. So naturally, I can teach people to do just like I'm doing, right? There's been many famous cases. I'll use a few sports analogies. There's been lots and lots of athletes, who perform at extremely high levels in terms of what they do. But when it came to coaching others, when they weren't on the field of play, they failed miserably, mainly because what we do is very difficult to translate the motivation to someone else. You can always impart the skill, but to impart motivation to someone else is a very, 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 very difficult thing. Very difficult thing. I think some of you know I used to work in psychiatry before I got into real estate. And motivation is definitely, so there's what's called inspiration, and there's another thing called motivation. And which one do we do most often? Do we inspire others or do we motivate others? And motivation is internal. Inspiration is external. I can say something that's very moving to you, and it inspires you to create an activity. But to motivate you to do an activity is a whole different channel, and I'll cover that in another session. But there's a difference between inspiration and motivation. So that's a level one leader. What's a level 2 leader? A level 2 leader is someone who's a contributing team member. So at a level 2, you're able to utilize your knowledge and your skills to help your team succeed, right? We talked about a level 1. That's a capable person, right? We are ballers, man. We go out and do the thing and we do it well. But are we level 2 leaders? Are we contributing? Are we able to impart skills and knowledge to help our team succeed? One of the ways we measure that is numbers, right? We can have a lot of team members, but if none of those team members are successfully closing deals, maybe the level of knowledge that we're imparting has no impact for those people. And again, that goes back to addressing motivation, things like that. Can we motivate others to perform well? It's one thing to motivate someone, or it's one thing for someone to tell you they're motivated by the things that you're doing, or the skills that you're imparting to them. But at the end of the day, we all know that numbers don't lie. So if you've got that person who you're leading or guiding, and at the end of each week, each month, each quarter, that there's still zeros on the board, there's something probably not connecting with those people. Okay. So that's a level, again, back to that level 1, but as a level 2, we're helping them to succeed. The whole reason we want a team is so that we are not the sole contributors to our team's success, right? In a way, if you think of a team is very much like a franchise. Each person is succeeding from the same business model, from the same activities over and over again, from the same customer-facing ideas and presentation. That's essentially a franchise, right? If you look at every successful franchise, they don't vary from shop to shop. I'll use a simple one, McDonald's, right? You don't go to McDonald's in Florida and get a Big Mac, and then you go to McDonald's in New York and it's a Bob's Crispy or something, right? It's consistent. The taste is the same. The experience is the same, right? The quality is the same. That's a franchise. And essentially, as a team or as a leader of a team, that's what you're imparting to your team members, is that franchise mentality. I'm sending you out to duplicate the same behavior, give the same or better results, so the customer experience exceeds what their expectation started off to be, right? That's how we become successful, is we usually exceed expectations. Some of us think we need to meet expectation. Meeting expectations is merely a baseline. That's what we all do. We set out, that's called a job, meeting those expectations of those who hire us. But exceeding those expectations is what causes, our customers to come back to us over and over again, or to refer people, because we've exceeded their expectations. So as that level 2 contributing team member, that's what you're wanting to do. You're working effectively, you're effectively, productively, and you're successfully helping to guide other people in your team or in your group to have that same level of success. So that's a level 1, level 2 covered. A level 3 leader is someone who's a competent manager. So some of you in your previous lives, or even in your real estate life, may have had the opportunity to manage others. And if you've ever managed others, you know what an arduous task it is to manage those outside of ourselves. I mean, let's face it, we've all got our own minds, we've got our own ideas, we all have a direction, but as a team, it's important that we all move uniformly in the same direction, in the same space. Can you imagine your favorite sporting team where each player has their own mind and they're all doing different things? Without cohesion, there is no success, because you don't have a unification of a mind. You have multiple minds with different goals doing the same activity. So you as a manager, or you as a leader, a level 3 leader, which is you want to be competent in terms of your organizational style. How do I get everybody to march in the same direction, to the same tune, at the same time, with the same common goal in mind, right? That's a competent manager. The ability to organize others to achieve specific goals and objectives. Guys, it sounds super easy, right? I've been managing others or guiding others for a long time, and it's not easy. Even when you're a competent manager, there are days to where you are overloaded because you've extolled so much resource to keep people marching towards the same specific goal or direction. And some of the reason why people fall out of line, so to speak, has to do more specifically with when things get rough, or when things don't actually, we don't realize success in the time frame we were hoping to realize success. We tend to get frustrated as human beings, as individuals. Some of it may have to do with we've got other life stressors that also impact our ability to stay focused and move in a direction. Money is one of the key drivers. And again, I look at money not for the money itself. Money is more like energy for me. And it's what can the energy provide, right? Does it provide a vacation, a nice lifestyle for me and my family, vacations, security? What does it provide for me? Does it allow me to engage in a hobby that I would not otherwise be able to do if I didn't have the energy around it? So money by itself is not necessarily the motivator, but it can certainly be a detractor, because when we haven't had money in a while, or we have things that press on all of us, like on a monthly commitment from a financial source, like paying my mortgage or my rent or feeding my family or any of those above, it causes us to lose focus when we don't see things in the time frame expected. And that happens like what we're in right now. We're in an adjusted market. So in that adjusted market, sometimes we had expectation of where it should end up, but the market didn't align with where we thought it should end up. So as a manager, or as a leader, and as a competent manager, which is a level 3 manager, you need to constantly exercise those skills and abilities to keep your team moving in that forward path to achieve a specific goal and objective. That's a level 3 or level 3 leader, or known as a competent manager. A level 4 leader is an effective leader. Now, what does that mean? How does that differ from a level 3 leader, which is a competent manager? A level 4 leader or an effective leader is in the category of where most top leaders fall. They're effective in terms of what they do. They're able to really kind of fuse together or galvanize their team in a way to where it's instinctive that performance is necessary in order to achieve that vision. And earlier I talked about motivation versus inspiration. We frequently inspire others, and it's that inspiration that should motivate them to want to achieve that vision. And keep in mind, as a leader, and I've said this before, some of you have disagreed with me in different forums, but a leader's vision needs to be their vision, right? We take ideas and suggestions from our teams because that's what we do. They have a mind. We evaluate whether or not that interjection of vision aligns with our own, and can it be incorporated to only improve what our service model may look like. But as a leader, you put together a team because you have a vision. You understand where you want things to go, and you're adding to your team based on where you want your vision to end up and how that vision is going to be executed. So as an effective leader, you're really kind of combining all of those other levels into this one type of thing. This is when you've become very comfortable with yourself. You're very clear in terms of who you are and what your role is with the team. You're very clear as to what you want to have happen at the end of the day. You're not shy about giving direction or feedback. You've inspired your team so well that they understand instinctively of where things need to go or what needs to happen, right? You're not having to be a daily overseer because your team knows what's expected of them and they perform accordingly and they're rewarded accordingly, right? To be able to merge a bunch of different individuals to be like-minded and actually want to perform for you, that's an effective leader. And that's what's known as a level 4 leader. And again, that's where most really good leaders fall, is into that effective leadership category, that level 4 leadership. How many of you, before we get to level 5, can already identify what kind of leader you are? Anybody know right off the bat? Everybody able to unmute your mics? I know I called on a few of you earlier.
I can guess I'm probably at 3, but I don't really know.
Who's that, Donna? Hey, Donna, how are you?
Yeah, I have a hard time evaluating myself, but.
Well, I mean, outside of having a hard time evaluating yourself, if you were to be truly honest, based on where your business is today and where things are going for you, so you said you feel you're a competent manager at this point. You can organize a group to achieve a specific goal and common objectives?
Yeah, well, I say that because before we got into real estate and before we started having a bunch of kids, we owned a business and we had employees.
Oh, got it. Okay, so you've had this experience before. You've been here on this level at some point in the past, and you feel that you're bringing those skills forward into your new life. Even though it's not new for you, but essentially into your new business model, right? Love it. Okay. So you're a level 3 confident manager. That's a good place to start. That's a good place to pin yourself. Anybody else? Where are you? Where do you think you are in terms of your leadership abilities? Nancy, are you able to unmute? How about you, Mary Ellen? Don't be shy, guys. William? I'm just going to call on everybody randomly until somebody picks up. Nick? Desiree? You guys are shy today. I've got a bunch of passengers, huh? I don't mind that. No problems with that. Jovan, what kind of leader are you?
It's kind of hard, like Donna said, to self-evaluate myself. I would love an assessment test to find out, though.
I've got an assessment test that I'll share with you.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah.
But just based on what I've shared so far, just
level, like level 3, maybe.
So you feel like you're a competent manager as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, that competent manager is that person who can shape others to achieve a specific goal or objective. That's where you feel you are right now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. I mean, that's kind of where most of us strive to be, particularly when we're newer in terms of the manager or leadership field. And again, there's a very different dynamic when we talk about managing and leading, right? Many of us are managers, have been managers before, but that leadership is a whole different thing. So just kind of based on where you are, you guys are right smack dab in the middle, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you're aspiring to be better at what you do. So when we've talked about 4 different types, or 4 different levels, and we know this is a 5-level thing. So that level 5 is what's known as a great leader, right? And these are the creme de la creme. I'm still aspiring to be a great leader. If I were to self-assess myself, I know that I'm a level 4. I've been doing this for a long time. In my entire adult life, I've always been in some type of managerial or leadership capacity from the first job I ever had. So I know that I've, over time, and I'm an old man now, I've developed some abilities and some skills to be where I'm at today. But am I a great leader, which is a level 5 leadership? I would say I've had moments, right? We've all had moments of a level 4 being an effective leader if we feel like we're level 3, or level 2, which is a contributing team member if we're, new to the leadership. But, the great leader. So that's when you have all of the abilities that we mentioned. Plus, we have the unique blend of humility that makes us truly great. Sometimes, because of the nature of life and who we are as individuals, as people, it feels really good to be acknowledged for what we've contributed or what we've done or the level of success that we've achieved. And that's, again, humility is one of those things that we all possess, but sometimes we all like the recognition. Even great leaders like recognition from time to time, but you look at the truly great leaders, they're not the ones that are in the spotlight all the time. I will tell you a guy who we all know now, who I absolutely think is a brilliant man. I'm not 100% sure if he's a great leader. That's a guy called Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a brilliant man for whatever reason you may look at him. I mean, he's piloted many, many successful companies. He sold PayPal for a gazillion dollars. I think it was $200 million that he got from PayPal when he sold it. And then, went on to pilot. He didn't found Tesla, by the way. Many people think he founded Tesla. He just merely made it better. Tesla had been around for a long time, and he basically came in and booted out the leadership of Tesla because he's like, you guys are doing it all wrong. So that's why I ask if, is he truly a great leader? Because I'm not sure if I see humility. I see lots of hubris, but I'm not sure if I see humility baked into his framework. But he's a brilliant guy. I do see that he's humble sometimes, but he seems like he doesn't mind or prefers to be at the center of attention. So I vacillate if he's a great leader. I absolutely think he's an effective leader 100% of the time. But, that greatness is just that thing to where people feel it as you walk in the room. There's another book by Jim Collins called Level 5 Leadership. the triumph of humility and fierce resolve, right? So that leads us into, how do we become a level 5 leader? I mean, that's like at the tip top pinnacle of life. Just as we go through life in stages, we're very different people at age 15 than we are at age 25, or at least I hope so, right? If we haven't figured out some things between 15 and 25, we might be in trouble. And just as I said that, we're very different people at 40 years of age than we are at 30 years of age. Some of that is the acquisition of life, right? We pick up different life skills or tools. We're gaining more experience. We're getting better understandings of who we are as people or what we want out of our lives, right? That's why each stage is marked as a milestone, because they are stages. In our 20s, we're essentially post-adolescent people. We go wild and crazy and do knucklehead things, or we still fall in line with aspects of conformity, of doing what our parents wanted us to do, getting the right quote unquote job, going to the right college, marrying if we're choosing to marry at that age. We're doing things that are quote unquote right socially, but not necessarily for us. So that's that 20 to 30 age range. That 30 to 40 age range, we're starting to figure things out. Yeah, this isn't going to work for me, or this works just fine. I love this thing. But we're starting to add and subtract when we get in our 30s. And certainly 40s is when we start to actually make our money, because we've discovered the path that we feel that we can follow, usually for the rest of our lives, or at least for a significant period of time, things like that. 50s, we're definitely salty people, and we've earned the right to make decisions for ourselves, just as we are in our 60s and so on. So that kind of is an excellent parallel for leadership. Being a level 5 leader, is not necessarily age-based, but it certainly is based on how we acquire and experience different events in our lives. And again, becoming that, it takes time and effort to be that person or to be that type of leader. But the good news is that it can be done, but we have to want to exercise the skills and ability to do that. And it's important to realize that, we've got to have progress through each level in order to get to level 5, right? We all have transient moments, as I mentioned earlier. Man, I did a great job. I was a level 4 leader all week. But is that sustainable? Is that consistent? Can you continue to drive others? Can you continue to be that effective leader that shoots, that meets or exceeds the expectations each and every day, and that your team is meeting or exceeding those expectations every day, and they feel motivated and inspired by what you've given them? So some strategies of really kind of becoming that level 5 leader, because we know it takes time and we know it takes some efforts, is, again, humility. Recognize that you have flaws. Recognize that you're fallible. We all are, right? Once we understand that at an emotional level, you guys have all heard me, or at least some of you have heard me talk about emotional intelligence in previous sessions. Once we start to understand that, and we react in a very professional way when we're challenged with emotional hurdles, because business can sometimes feel like it's emotional, particularly in real estate, when it really isn't. It's a business decision. It's all about business. So, that's how we start to tackle our humility, is understanding ourselves at a very deep emotional level, and why arrogance is very destructive. I'm sure you've all met those agents, and I hope none of you are, but I'm sure you've met those other practitioners in the field that are just arrogant like nobody's business, because they've achieved a certain level of success. And again, they're basing success primarily on the dollar value of their worth, which is, a very minor measurement of success, in my opinion. Certainly money drives us, but money by itself has no value. It's the energy that the money provides. So, arrogance can absolutely be destructive. Confidence and arrogance sometimes look the same, but they're very different. So that way, people can see past the stuff that you're doing and recognize you as a human being, which helps to drive someone towards a motivating platform, is they're recognizing that you're just a person who does good things to get great results, right? That's literally kind of how you look at motivating others, or what motivation looks like is, I'm seeing you as just a person who I can relate to, but you're doing great things and I want to do great things like that, right? Conversely, a leader needs to take responsibility for the team's efforts, when things go wrong. That's one of the hardest things to do, is take the blame when we feel like it may not be us. Now, that's not to say you take ownership of everything all the time, but taking the blame, or really recognizing it's my vision. When there's a disruption in the path to my vision, I have to own that, because something went wrong, either through my ability to inspire, my ability to organize, or my ability to lead someone towards motivation. That's you. That's a you thing. You're the leader. Some of you have children, if not all of you have children. Donna said it best. I have a gaggle of kids. I got a gaggle of kids too, right? My kids are all grown, all adults. But there've certainly been times in their younger lives to where, oh my God, did this ship just crash? What happened? Right? And if you haven't experienced that as a parent, you're doing something wrong, because we all have the best of intentions, and we start off with very strong ideation of where our children are going to be at some point in their lives. And, certainly we all know they take their own mind, and the next thing you know, it feels like failure, when in reality, it's just an alternate path to the same reality. So being able to take responsibility is a huge thing. Asking for help. Strong leaders ask for help, right? They, those leaders who are great, they have no problems recognizing their capacity. We as Westerners, we've been conditioned to think we can do anything. And while that is partially true, it doesn't mean anything as a solo person, as a unity of one. It means, I've reached my capacity. I don't even know what this thing is. Let me find someone else who is an expert in this and collaborate with that person, or at the very least, glean knowledge from that person. That's what a good leader does. They're constantly learning, and they don't view asking for help as a weakness. Many of us look at, if I ask for help, it's a weakness. I can't even tell you how many agents I've worked with who were afraid. So, I had a company that were afraid to actually reach out to me, because they're like, yeah, well, I know you're busy, and I just thought I'd figure it out myself. Well, you don't even know what you're trying to figure out, right? And that's just at a practitioner level. So imagine the number of leaders who were like, I watched a few videos and I got this all figured out, and I know where this is going. I'm not going to ask for help, even when you see things going sideways, right? A truly great leader will ask all the time. It's genuine strength when you have the ability to ask. Someone is going to be stronger than you in a specific subject matter, or an expert in something that you're not familiar with. You guys all know who Guy Kawasaki is. He wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? There was a quote from him that was, a player recruits a player recruits A+ players, while B players recruit C players. So if you're recruiting A+ players, why wouldn't you take full advantage of their skills, right? So when we're skilled, again, and this goes back to why we frequently seek inexperienced or newer folks in the business when we're just barely above new, because it's easier to engage you because there are no challenges that are being thrust upon me. Someone who is at your level or better, they're going to have conversation with you, and they may question some of your values or some of your decisions as you're looking to move forward. And some of us view that as conflict. And when we view that as conflict, we naturally try and avoid, right? We're all familiar with fight or flight. Most of us tend to avoid. We sidestep what feels like conflict, when in fact, it's really just someone who has a same, similar, or better skill set as you that's kind of going, hey, why are you doing that? And they may be asking merely because they don't understand and they're wanting to learn a bit from you. Or they may be wanting to give you some input that might help you to execute more effectively. So as you're looking at your leadership style, and a couple of you have identified what you feel your leadership style is, look at how you're reaching out to others to support your vision in order to sustain your continued growth. And look at the balance. And again, I'll talk about this at 1 o'clock in another session, but look at the balance of what your team dynamics are right now. Are you heavily loaded with inexperienced players who are a constant test of your resources, which takes you off the selling floor, which slows down your business? Or is your business a healthy mix of people who already understand and have skills that they can share with the rest of the group and maybe assist you in terms of how you're training up the younger, motivated, experienced team members to be better? Look at, really take some time and evaluate that. And don't be afraid to ask for help, right? You have to look at those people who have the same skills as you in order to better yourself, right? When, you guys can't see, I'm a very large man, which is why I use basketball references. I'm 6'6", 260 pounds, right? I've been athletic for a good number of years in my life. But when I wanted to get better at anything, I would play with better people. I mean, the last 20 plus years or so of my life, I've been an avid golfer. And, golf is a sport to where you're only playing yourself, but it takes you 10 years to realize it's only you're competing against, not with others. But once I started actually reaching out and playing with people who were far more skilled than I was, I started to notice improvements in my abilities and the things that I were doing. Even not asking, just watching, evaluating, observing, I was able to say, oh, if I hold my club this way, I can get a better grip, or I can get more depth in my swing, or whatever it was, right? So asking for help is a very valuable skill to be a great leader. Again, we talked about taking responsibility and being disciplined. Discipline is one of the hardest things of life for any of us to develop. Some of us think we're disciplined, and some of us have aspects of discipline, but are we truly disciplined, right? There's a reason why in this business we frequently employ accountability coaches to the things that we do, because it's easy to let yourself off the hook each and every day. I was going to call X amount of people, or I was going to get X amount of appointments this week, but the weather's bad and people are still reeling from X, and whatever excuse hurdle we can throw out, we'll throw it out because we lack discipline, right? Whereas a truly disciplined, great leader does things because they know they need to be done, even when it's difficult, right? And getting through those adverse days or those very difficult days speaks to you as a leader, because when you're taking those days off because they're difficult, guess what? You're sending a message to your team members to do. Hey, oh yeah, you're right. That's difficult, right? It's the same parallel process as when we watch our parents do certain things, right? Because they're our ultimate guide through a certain point in our life. And we're watching them do things and they say, hey, don't do that. But yet they're doing the same thing, or they're not following through. It tends to shape us a little differently. We're now looking at, yes, these were the words, but these were the actions, and the two didn't align, right? So developing that strong disciplinary habit, or being very disciplined in the way you conduct your life and your business, again, takes work. It takes time. And, guys, again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in their lives right now. We are all at different stages. We've all been places or have yet to be places. So, look at yourself, evaluate yourself on how truly disciplined you are, because we all let ourselves off the hook from time to time. Diet's one of those things. Exercise is one of those things. drink too much, drink too little, or not at all. Smoke, not smoke. All those basic life things that we do. There's a lot of things that we find that we lack discipline in, or we'd like to see more discipline. Develop discipline. That's what a great leader does. A great leader finds the right people. I mentioned that earlier when we were talking about just kind of how to surround yourself. Surround yourself with greatness. It's what's called the exchange theory, or the leader-member exchange theory, is surrounding yourself with greatness. Great people tend to do great things. And when we're around great people, we're motivated to be our best. I used golfing as an example because it's very true. I'm not a great golfer, but I've gotten better over the years because I surrounded myself with people who get it. They talk the talk, they walk the walk. It makes me better. It makes me want to do things differently. It makes me, really push myself. Whereas when I started golfing, I was golfing with people who were either at my level or below my level. And some of it could have been ego-based, which is now I'm in charge and, hey, you guys should have done this. Either way, we all still shot a crappy game. I just shot a less crappy game. You know what I mean? So it's that leadership, it's that leader-member exchange theory. You want to really get or spend the time as you're developing your leadership style and developing your team of finding the right people. Really go out and look. Like I said, hiring a new person is really easy to do because they're looking for something or someone to attach to. And there's not a lot of skill involved in hiring a newer person because a newer person doesn't know what they don't know. So if you sound at all credible, more than likely you're going to be the person of choice, right? But now think about everything that's involved now that you're the person of choice. It's like you just got a brand new infant and you're going to be spoon feeding that person forever. Now, keep in mind, I am in no way saying don't hire a new person, just the opposite. I'm saying create balance as you're looking at being that leader. Because there are going to be multiple contributors to that new person's success. So that new person, you're actually doing a benefit or giving benefit to that new person by you actually taking the time and the resources to hire someone who has greatness already that is willing to work with you towards your vision. Because now you've got multiple people that are going to take your newer, more malleable, more eager team members and help to bring them to that common goal or bring them to fruition. Okay. And then finally, lead with passion. I just jumped out of my head. When it doesn't feel like work. Oh, finding something that you love. When you find something that you love doing, it doesn't feel like work, right? You guys have all heard that old adage. This doesn't feel like work. I love what I do. Part of the reason I've been in real estate so long is I really enjoy it. Real estate's a multifaceted business, right? In our early days when we're struggling to, make a dime, some of us have been fortunate enough to actually do well right out of the gate as we got into the business. But we all have ebbs and flows to where, gosh, it's been tough making money in this market or that money or market or whatever. We still come back to it because real estate has so many different facets to it. I started off like many of you doing residential, quickly kind of got into residential, commercial, whereas I started working with investors who are more specific about numbers than they are about emotion of the property. And did a lot of balance to that. Investors are very easy people to work with because it's about the numbers. And, there's a lot of intuitiveness that goes into working with investors. You can go commercial. You can be a property manager if that's what you do. There's so many different levels. You can carve your own niche into it. And you're constantly discovering ways or creating different methods of purpose. So that's kind of how you talk about passion when we talk about a business like real estate. Not to mention the fact of we're helping others. We get a chance to meet people. We get a chance to build our own personal financial portfolios. So there's a lot. So as you're leading, think about, are you leading with passion, or are you, they used to say scarcity versus abundance, and abundance versus scarcity is what I meant to say. But really think about kind of what you're bringing to the table. Do you understand your own value proposition as a leader? If you're constantly questioning your value proposition, there may be some tweaking that needs to happen for you and your personal growth and development, and your personal growth and development, and then also your business plan. Your business plan is a living, breathing document and needs constant adjustment. It needs constant adjustment. You need to define upfront what your income profile needs to look like for that given period of time, because that's how you're actually creating strategies in order to execute that business plan. So by taking a look at all of those things, those will give you some ideas and options on how to achieve that great leadership position. All right. Guys, any questions? Anything you want to add? We've got about 4 minutes. As always, I really appreciate everybody's time and participation. I know it takes a bit to, take time out of your day and, participate or contribute in something like that, but in something like this. But does anybody have anything they want to add? Anything they want to share?
No, thanks, Dee. I really appreciate your input and support and everything.
Always. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate you as well.
Yeah, very helpful, Dee. Looking forward to these.
Awesome. Well, again, guys, I'll be talking about teams at building high-performing teams at 1:00. Same bat time, same bat channels. So if no one has anything else to add, I look forward to seeing the rest of you at 1 Pacific Standard Time today. Otherwise, thank you guys for your time, and I will see everyone in a bit.